This past summer, I read a book so good that I wanted to live in it. I probably spent about 25 hours, give or take, reading the book, and then another 50 processing my notes, going back to the book, and trying to figure out why it had such a strong impact on me. It was the perfect companion for the unfortunate 2023 crop of climate disasters, and also a balm for the foul mood that I had throughout the summer because of them. The book is I Want a Better Catastrophe, Navigating the Climate Crisis with Grief, Hope, and Gallows Humor, and it is by Andrew Boyd. Welcome to Green Heart Forward. My name is Brigitte, and I want to share with you today my impressions about this book that, in my opinion, is one of the most impactful I have read in the last 5 years, on any topic really, but even more specifically about the climate emergency. The book was published in early 2023, and it's almost like nature was its publicist, conspiring to get the points across. There's been quite a crop of disasters this year, including the burning of the town of Lahaina in Hawaii, the unprecedented fires in British Columbia, the disastrous, catastrophic, and deathly floodings in Spain, Syria, Nova Scotia, China, and elsewhere. All of those have made the facts very clear. The climate emergency is real, it's here, and it's now. So how are we going to go about our lives? That is the question that Boyd explores in this book. Andrew Boyd is a New York City-based lifelong activist. He's now in his 60s. He totally acknowledges that he lives a relatively privileged and sheltered life when it comes to the climate emergency. He explains in the beginning of the book how activists like him rely a lot on hope to keep their spirits up and to recruit more people to the cause. Hope is important. We think maybe if we show up for this protest, the government will change the law. Maybe this corporation, the bad guys, will abandon this destructive project. We think if we keep on showing up, denouncing the climate emergency, there is a chance that governments around the world and people and corporations will take decisive action to avoid blowing through the target of 1.5 degree of planetary warming. Like me, and perhaps like you, Andrew Boyd has come to a sobering conclusion. It's not gonna happen. There's no way humanity will reverse the trend on carbon emissions and environmental destruction in time to avoid catastrophic warming and destructive feedback loops. There's not a chance anymore. On page 70, Boyd writes, "You would think if we can and we must, then we would." It's kind of a no-brainer, right? And yet my gut says we won't. I totally feel that. It breaks my heart and my shoulders slump as I write this. But we won't. We can, we must, we won't. Are you kidding me? Is that going to be the epitaph of humanity? We could have, we needed to, we didn't. So now what? In I Want a Better Catastrophe, Boyd takes us on a quest to explore big questions. Can I handle truth? Is there any hope? To whom am I responsible? How bad is it gonna be? What is still worth doing? And perhaps most importantly, how can I and we survive whatever is to come with our humanity intact? On his quest, Boyd meets 8 great hopers and doomers, including the uber-pessimistic climate scientist Guy McPherson, who predicts the end of human civilization within a couple of generations. Also the beloved Joanna Macy, who insists that although, things look pretty bleak, we just don't know if we are helping a world die or if we are assisting a new one being born. He also talks with Robin Wall Kimmerer, the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, who leads us to see the world as a gift and seeing ourselves as part of the natural whole. I, above all, loved his interview with Adrienne Mary Brown, who invites us to imagine that, we are falling, but we are sheltering an infant against our chest to protect them from the worst of the blow. I don't want to stop you from reading the book, but here are the main points you will find in it. Number 1, let's just acknowledge it already. There is no hope to keep the climate stable enough to continue human civilization as we've known it before. but there is wiggle room in the assessment of how bad things will be. Number 2, once we acknowledge the severity of the climate predicament, we can feel more free and empowered to act fearlessly. Number 3, well, of course, we can always fall into apathy and nihilism, but doing the right thing and caring for each other is always worth it, and it feels more satisfying. At least we will have made life better for one other being. Number 4, individuals and groups have been designing and even experimenting with pathways that we can take to protect, perhaps even preserve some of the most valuable aspects of our world as we know it, of the beauty, and lessen the suffering on the way down. Number 5, though there will inevitably be discomfort and suffering, there is meaning to be found in this journey. Just to be clear, this is not a book about the facts of the climate emergency. Those are considered a given and not discussed in any way. It's also not a book about the techno fixes that are peddled as solutions to the climate catastrophe. Though those could possibly buy humanity some time, they wouldn't be addressing the bigger problems that have led to the predicament we are in the first place. Without climate justice, it's all just greenwashing. Andrew Boyd is not trying to convince anyone of anything. Rather, he is offering a small head start on the grieving process and some help answering the question, what is still worth doing as we face the consequences of the destruction we humans have leveled on our beautiful planet? This isn't a short book. Could Boyd have conveyed the message in fewer pages? Maybe, but reading I Want a Better Catastrophe is also a journey, and there's value in taking time to experience and process the emotions along the way. He did take a shot at distillating the existential dilemmas that we face in, I gotta show you this really cool chart for navigating our climate predicament. I loved it. It's just another way to reflect on our own views and choices. There's also ways in which Boyd's book was, for me, good to think against. Generally, I agree with him on pretty much everything. But there are some aspects that I feel should have been acknowledged with a little bit more care. In particular, I find that he's talking about the climate predicament as if it was a unified situation that is faced by all of humanity. Though he does acknowledge in one short chapter that, yes, we are in the same storm, but our boats are quite different. There's something that he does not mention is that multiple scenarios may be unfolding at different places on the planet at the same time, and the people here may not know what's happening there. In particular, let's say that in the global north, we managed to reorganize our democracy so it goes in the direction of more climate justice. Well, it doesn't mean that the people there, Tibet, for example, conveniently not listed on this dollar store globe, won't be living under a violent feudal regime fueled by rare metal extraction for renewable energy. The planet is a really big place with a lot of humans on it. Yes, doing the right thing is always worth it. Boyd and his guests return to this point over and over again throughout the book, and I am totally on board. But how will we manage to continue doing the right thing and also ask ourselves questions like, are we right in our relationships, as one of the guests in the book suggests, when we are hungry, cold, sick, and seeing our children suffer? Because yeah, food system collapse and pandemics are the stuff of the climate emergency. As Jane Goodall has often said, a man will cut the last tree and fish the last fish to feed his children. Those like monks who have been practicing nonviolence and a modest life for many, many years may go about their life and surrender to the suffering, but how will everyone else handle the urgent emergency of hunger and despair? Which brings me to my last point. What about the millions of people in the global north, to say nothing of the billions in the rest of the world, who don't even really have the climate emergency on their radar yet? Or if they do, they may have made a conscious decision that it's not something that matters to them. I am glad that Boyd wrote this book for me and not for them, but how are we going to include 8 billion humans pushing towards 10 billion soon in this conversation about morality and spirituality. I Want a Better Catastrophe is a powerful book that I recommend reading to anyone suffering from climate anxiety or with interest in climate action. To me, it felt really good to read someone writing out loud the thoughts that have been lurking at the back of my mind. Rightfully, we've been hung up as a society on trying to find solutions to avert the climate emergency. But every trend now shows that much of the damage is already baked into the atmosphere. Our world is already changed profoundly, not in the best of ways, and many things are going to get worse. It does not mean that we do not need to continue putting energy towards saving what is truly precious, but it's high time that we learn how to leverage our grief and our suffering to become better people and do more of the right thing. So go ahead and request a book from your local library or order it from your independent bookseller and read it. I don't think you'll regret it. And make sure to please like this video, subscribe to Green Heart Forward, and comment below to let me know what other books you have found powerful in your own journey.